Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. And again, this particular game is taking place after the Beastmen DLC, so you guys should get to see some new magic and other fun stuff. So in this particular matchup, I am going to be piloting the Empire, and I'm going to be facing off against the Greenskins. So definitely a classic matchup, and definitely a very fun one. As far as my army composition goes, I have a front line of handgunners here, so I like to bring a lot. I decided not to go with cannons this game. I wanted to invest more in my Demogryph Knights, and also I'm bringing some great swords, as well as pimping out KARL and his buddy Davy Crocket over here, the new Amber Wizard. So it'd be fun to get to see that in action. As far as my main line goes, I have spearmen with shields, just cheap, cost effective. They usually last quite a long time, even against superior infantry like Black Orcs. So again, just using them while I can maneuver around with the handgunners and other troops like that. Behind them, I have three groups of greatswords, definitely the bread and butter of this army, and a very cost-effective, very fun unit. In the back, two groups of Demogryph Knights with halberds. Again, I wanted to pack a little bit of a punch, and kind of my tactic this game, as you guys will see, is I kind of have a bit of a bro squad, just a mob squad that, while the main group is fighting, I have KARL, Davy Crocket, Demogryph Knights, as well as a Manticore that I summon with Davy Crocket, and I just kind of have them run around and do their thing. So very, very cool. I really, really like this new DLC. So as far as his composition goes, he has a group of Orc Biggins, some Orc Boys in his front line. So clearly, like most people do, he has his fodder line in the front. Behind them, he has Black Orcs. And as you can tell, look at the substantial difference in the stats with the Black Orcs. 110 armor to 30 armor, 85 leadership. But again, look at the leadership on these Orc Boys. It really isn't that bad. He's got an Arachnarok Spider here. He has some Goblin Archers. It looks like that's all he brought in terms of range support. It was some Goblin Archers, no Doom Diver Catapults or anything like that. Then he has Forest Goblin Riders, again, probably to ride around and try and flank my handgunners and that type of thing. Definitely a fun unit. And as far as his leadership goes, he has Grimgor Ironhide somewhere around here. I think he might be mixed in with the ranks. I saw him a minute ago, but regardless, yeah, there he is. He's with his boys up there getting ready to march through the forest. And then he has an Orc Shaman here for his magic support. So without further ado, let's get the battle started. So I immediately did not like the idea of him coming through this jungle on me and just being able to just come right out, and it doesn't give my handgunners a lot of room to work. So I actually decided to relocate to this marsh. So I relocate my troops to this open field here, and my plan was to kind of just use my superior range units, because again, I have handgunners, and what does he have? Goblin Archers. So I knew that I had an advantage in terms of ranged. Not necessarily in terms of range, but just in terms of power. So I wanted to draw him out here, and so you see the Amber Wizard on his Pegasus, or Davy Crocket, as I have so coined him, getting ready in position here. These Demogryph Knights, very quick, very mobile. Definitely an MVP of the Empire roster. So this development takes a little bit of time, so I'll go ahead and fast forward for you guys. We'll just go ahead and look around the army. So again, he's got his Goblins, he's got his Black Orcs, so he'll probably be sending in his fodder units here, and you know, as most do, and hopefully they'll absorb most of his handgunner fire. So regardless, I set up at the bottom of this hill, which isn't necessarily ideal, but again, he didn't have much range, and I figured that I could get some pot shots off of these handgunners against these Black Orcs and these Biggins up here. So I'm just getting just in range, and I'm just going to kind of try and prod him down, because again, he does have the Orc Shaman to potentially cast a Gaze of Mork, or some of that other funny business, but really he doesn't have much to draw me in. Personally, when I play Greenskins, I really like to get Doom Diver Catapults and that type of thing to force Empire players or whoever you're fighting to come into you, or at least force them to engage you. Here I'm able to just sit here and maintain my position down here and just basically wait for him. So yep, so that's just my 2 cents on that. So again, these handgunners, I moved them up just a little bit because these guys were just out of range. And it looks like over here, he is moving his Forest Goblin Spiders around, as well as his Arachnarok Spider. So he's certainly collapsing this flank over here. But in the meantime, my handgunners, they're getting some pretty nice shots. I feel the pressure coming from this jungle side, so I pull my handgunners away. But this other group continues to fire on these guys. So I'm kind of using a skirmish tactic where I shoot, I pull back. I shoot, I pull back. And I feel like that really optimizes the effectiveness of those units. And if you look at it, it doesn't seem like a lot of damage, but they're starting to chip away. And if you look at these Black Orcs, in this particular volley, these guys take a lot of HP damage. Right here, they get a nice little chunk there, a good 10, 15% give or take. So he's starting to feel the pressure. And again, I'm just going to keep skirmishing with him. Handgunners are a great unit, cost effective, and And as you can see, he's had enough, and he's coming in to deliver the business. So I, again, reform my ranks to adjust for his position. I fall back just a little bit because I didn't want this pressure and this. I wanted to make this Arachnarok Spider run further. Anytime you can kind of throw a wrench in people's game plans with quick tactical maneuvers like this, definitely a good call. So now Davy Crocket up here on his Pegasus, just being awesome. He is summoning the Manticore, which, you know, I really like the Cygor with the other lore that is available in the Beast DLC, but the Manticore is really good for flying around and harassing and going after archers and you know, that sort of thing. So again, I get the Manticore in position, and at the same time I'm positioning my melee troops. And something to take into account, when you look at the overhead of this battle, you can see that all of his forces and essential strength is scattered over here in this left side. He doesn't have much threat over here in this area, so I'm able to just post up my handgunners out on this flank while I engage. So again, these spearmen are going to engage here, the front line. I'm using this greatsword to plug this gap here, and these greatswords I'm sending over to intercept here. So again, I'm getting some nice pot shots on these Black Orcs here. He did use a nice little AoE effect here, and my greatswords don't quite get there. They do stop them, but unfortunately these Force Goblin Spiders, who are already shaken, mind you, get in there. But I pull in the Goon Squad. This is what we'll call them for today. So as you can see, they really, Karl and Davy Crocket and their pet Manticore really had their way with these spiders. So they're going to already be routed. So again, these handgunners did get engaged on, but I pulled them back immediately and pull in the Demogryph Knights for my auxiliary, as well as Karl and the Goon Squad to lay into these Black Orcs. So that's something I really liked with the Amber Wizard and, you know, a hero like KARL FRANZ, is that you can really make a mobile beatdown squad that can just chase down and plug in wherever they're needed. So these Black Orcs are definitely getting the savage power, and they're being chased off. So at the same time, I'm also using the Flock of Doom whenever I can, because I just, for some reason, had so much excess mana that, you know, I just was spamming it whenever I could. So my line starts to crumble here, and I had kept a unit of Greatswords in reserve. So they're doing pretty good holding up against these Black Orcs. And this other Demogryph Knight unit, I used to focus down his Arachnarok Spider. So they really, really damaged that thing. So again, the Goon Squad is, at this point, going around in the back line and just destroying his Goblin Archers and other ranged threats. And these Demogryph Knights are doing really good. They have the stand your ground and hold your line. So they're definitely going to be very sturdy here. So he brings the Spider. So I think what better opportunity than to get the Manticore and the other creatures in there to deal with him. So again, I really like this strategy of using Karl and this Death Squad to just fly around and hunt down pertinent threats. I didn't want to fight Grimgor because he could have done a bit of damage, but regardless, this Orc player really liked using this, the Foot of Gork, or I believe is what it's called. He loved using it. Again, it's not the best ability, but it's definitely very cool. A little overpriced. I personally prefer the unit augmentations that the Orcs or Greenskins have available to them. So again, this squad, look at them. They just routed this Arachnarok Spider. They're just so powerful. And then I pull my Demogryph Knights to chase down, because again, with Orcs, they do have a lot of low leadership units, especially in the Goblins, and I didn't want them coming back. So, and I also used this other group of Demogryph Knights to deal with his Orc Shaman, so they'll easily be able to kill him. Demogryph Knights are just so strong. So these Orc boys are being pulled back to help, and his Black Orcs are doing a really good job in the front line. I mean, you can see this is definitely the Swamp of Sorrows here. It's just, it's messy, it's violent, definitely a classical lore conflict here. So my greatswords, at this point, I pulled them over to their king or their lord or emperor, and I definitely wanted to tighten up my army so they could really fight with their emperor and have that leadership buff as well as the strength and numbers, essentially. So, though I did have a bunch of units who routed earlier who now came back, and that's something that's so valuable. And you see, these handgunners are getting great shots on these guys. These spearmen are getting re-engaged. They're steady, even in the face of these Black Orcs. And again, these spearmen are coming back. These handgunners are still teeing off. So a lot of utility coming back, and he doesn't have as much coming back. Most of his units are shattered or have been taking a lot of damage because I've been using this cleanup crew back here. Now, I cannot stress the importance of this enough. For any of you guys that are playing ranked, definitely have one group of your cavalry or some sort of mobile unit, even if it's Goblin Wolf Riders, chasing down routing units. That will pay massive dividends. You don't always have to use them in the initial shock, but again, just use them to chase down these units in the rear and keep them off the battlefield. Don't forget about them. Finish them off if you can. Granted, there's times where you'll need them in the front line, but regardless. So I brought all my troops together, and again, his unit started to crumble, and I brought in the Goon Squad to finish off Grimgore Ironhide here, so he's not going to last long against the joined might of KARL FRANZ, Davy, Crocket, as well as their pet Manticore. So definitely a good fight here. It was very, very pitched for a while, but again, dragging him into the swamp and using these handgunners to just maneuver back and skirmish and you know, all of that sort of tacticianship definitely pays off. So as far as the breakdown of the game goes, KARL FRANZ did quite well. Davy Crocket didn't have a lot of kills himself, and I really, really wish they would add the summoned units kills so I could see how much the pet Manticore did. Again, the Spearmen held the line, and Great Swords, you know, as expected, did quite well. And though these handgunners didn't have a lot of kill, they did do a lot of HP damage to these Black Orcs, and they were also able to get some shots off on the Arachnarok Spider early on. And again, Demogryph Knights just definitely one of the best units in the game, even with the cost increases. Just chasing down, flanking Black Orcs, chasing down leadership, killing the Orc Shaman single-handedly. Just very, very good unit. So as far as his army composition goes, again, I'm not a big fan of the Arachnarok Spider. It's a little bit tricky. You know, a single unit of Demogryph Knights can essentially take it down and really just outmaneuver it, outdamage it, just outvalue it, in my opinion. The Goblin, Forest Goblin Spider Riders, you know, he may have been better off getting a group of Orc Boarboy Biggins. If the Orc Boarboy Biggins had gotten that initial charge on the handgunners, they probably would not have recovered. But the Forest Goblins, they routed almost instantly, but granted, that was part of having KARL nearby with his Blood Roar. Grimgore, always a boss. You got to respect him. He's just an OG, and he got in there with his boys and laid the beat down. This Orc Shaman did quite well with not only his magic utility, but, you know, just in melee as well. So again, really good game to Johnny 5 Style or Johnny Style. I look forward to seeing you again on Ladder. Please like and subscribe for more content, guys. And you all have an excellent Friday. Take care.